Okay, so I don't think I realized how big of a comic fan you were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think I realized that. Have you been a comic fan your whole life? Has that been like just like a lifelong love of yours from childhood?
Lifelong love. My mom was an
Hell
antique.
yeah.
My mother was an antique nut, and so she would drag me off to all the antique shops and the auctions and all these incredibly boring places. But I discovered the cardboard box full of comic books, and that helped get me through it for sure. And that's how I discovered comics. Fell in love with it. Grew up in the 80s when Pacific Comics and Eclipse came out, these independent
Yeah.
books that decorated the local comic book shelf. And that's what I fell in love with. I fell in love with Dave Stevens, the Rocketeer, and Bruce
Mm.
Jones with Twisted Tales and Alien
Oh,
Worlds.
cool.
That's where I discovered all these great artists and terrific writers. I was never a fan of the Marvel stuff. Batman was okay, but I was an adult when The Dark Knight came out, and really kind of
Yeah.
blew open the superhero stuff. When I was a kid, it was all basically the same shit they were making in the 60s.
Yeah. I mean, like, I grew up loving comics too, but I was similar in that I didn't go to the superheroes. I went to like the creepy, weirder stuff. I always loved like the independent, weirder things that come out and still am very much that way.
Creepy.
Especially, yes,
Creepy's
there's
a
some,
great Warren. Did you ever get into the Warren magazines, Creepy and Eerie?
no.
Where have you
What's
been?
wrong with me? Under a rock, apparently. Um, but so how long have you wanted to make your own comic? Has that been like something in the back of your head that you've wanted to do, or is this something you didn't really conceive of as a possibility until recently with the Lycan?
I started a comic book company after I did The Punisher in
Yeah.
2005. I started my own company. I met Steve Niles, who had just done 30 Days of Night. We turned out we were in the same. We grew up in the same area, which is outside of Washington, D.C.
Wait, yeah, that's right. Where did he grow? I literally am in Silver Spring, Maryland right now. And
Oh,
I also last time we spoke a while ago, I think you mentioned that you grew up around here.
yeah, Rockville.
Yep,
Rockville,
Rockville.
Maryland. So Steve was in the DC punk rock scene,
Oh,
and he
that's
had
right.
he had a band
Yeah.
called Gray Matter. Um,
Yeah.
and so I would go to those shows, and had no idea that it was Steve Niles. Probably I don't remember many of those shows. The idea
Oh, I know the DC, but the DC punk scene was like
it was terrific, is what it was. It was It
terrific.
was a really special time if you were
Wow.
into that kind of thing. Uh,
Yeah.
so me and Steve became partners and we did a couple of books. We did Bad Planet, which proud of the art in that, but I was just learning how to write. So the writing when I look back and flip through that book, I'm like, wow, I was terrible. But
Isn't
the
it fun
idea
being
was
a creative, just being like everything I do, like this is garbage.
garbage, and the art was great. And I got to work with Basil Gogos. I got to work with Dave Stevens and Bernie Wrightson and Bill Stout. I just had so much fun. And then, so we did three books through the company, which was called Raw Studios. And you can find them on Amazon. They're still floating around out there.
Oh yeah.
Bad Planet, we did a issue three was in 3D. So I got to work with Ray Zone, who was the king of 3D comics at that time. And I had a huge crush on 3D comics. That was just mind-boggling when I was a teenager. So I
Mm.
said we have to do an issue in 3D. So we did. That was super fun. And then the Lycan was going to be the fourth book. And
Okay.
I found a great artist. I got a couple issues deep, and then my artist disappeared on me, which is not terribly uncommon, especially
Really?
in the independent world. artists they have the hardest job. I mean, chaining yourself to a desk for 8 to 10 hours a day is not for the meek. So we lost him, and he disappeared, and the book fell apart, obviously. So I put it in a drawer for over 10 years. It was heartbreaking. I had a fantastic script by Mike Carey.
Yeah.
We were lucky to get him. He did a bang up job. He just did such a great job with bringing the outline to life and bringing his own magic to the story. So Renegade is my new company, and we said, we have to do a book. So we sent it to Comixology, who picked it up, and they've been so great giving us the time to do the kind of book that I want to do because I like my books. Um, they have to be detailed. They have to be good to look at. That's the art. The comic art is really what turns me on. Being able to create a world that you feel like, it's unlike reality, but it's unlike anything else because it's an artistic vision of the world, and there's just as many different ways to do that as there are artists on the planet. You look
Yeah.
at stuff like from Steve Ditko or Jack Kirby. That's a world. The people are alive inside of that Jack Kirby style.
Yeah.
Uh, and the same is true of any artist, and that's what really turns me on, being able to kind of like create a little peephole into this imaginatory world that would not exist in any other medium. So, which is what
Yeah.
makes comics special, the American art form. We have jazz, and we have the comic book. So I'm
Oh.
proud to be a part of that.
Yeah, well, and the lichen is so pretty to look at, and I love how detailed the art is. But I first want to hear about how the idea came to be for you. So the idea originated with you, right? Correct? Like the idea for the comic?
I was working with a screenwriter named David James Kelly,
Okay.
and he came to me with this idea. We were
Yeah.
genre fans, but we're elevated genre fans. We love the character. So if you can bring character to a genre thing, that's sort of the bee's knees for me. And Dave gave me this really terrific outline, and we worked on it, and we just started batting it back and forth in my capacity as kind of a producer slash director,
Ooh.
developed the thing, and then I was working with some artists from the UK at the time, and through working with guys that I admired from the UK, I was able to get the outline into the hands of Mike Carey. And somehow the guy just so happened to have a space in his schedule that he could knock it out. And he loved the story. He's like, I never do stuff that I adapt. I never adapt stuff. I always do original content, but
Hmm.
I like this story, so let's do it. And so it
That's so
just so
cool.
happened, I think it's the only thing that he's ever adapted. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that that's true.
That's so cool. That's amazing.
Unless he's done like a book or something like that. I don't know.
That's but so was he game to jump back into it after 10 years when you said we're gonna make it
Script
happen?
is done. He wrote the
So
script.
it was okay, so it was all done. The whole
Of
thing
course.
was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I
cool.
guess there's different ways of, I guess
Because comics, I feel like people have different ways of like
yeah,
tackling the script for
that's a
that.
legitimate question because there's a lot of different ways to put it together, and some people sort of like are writing it as you're
Yeah.
drawing it, and sometimes that pressure can sort of like drive it out of you, like you have to stay ahead of the artist.
Yeah.
Uh, but this we had the whole script from top to bottom.
Oh, cool. So this time it was just finding another artist, and you have Diego Yapur? right?
Yeah,
Doing the art
Diego
for this one?
Yapor. I just started combing through the shelves at my local comic book shop, which was called Secret Headquarters.
Ooh. With a good
And
comic book name,
they've
comic book shop name.
it's a fantastic shop, and they've recently moved. They used to be in Silver Lake, but I think last year or maybe during the pandemic they moved over to Eagle Rock. I think they're in now, which
Okay.
is near Silver Lake. I'm in California. I'm in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I would just go there and a couple other places, and you just start peeling through the independent books. You
That's
know, you
awesome.
have to find an artist that's young enough that he hasn't been gobbled up by one of the major studios,
Yeah.
but experienced enough that he can pull off what you're asking him to do. So there's this like little window for an artist, for the really good ones, which is the only kind of artists that I'll work with. The crazy ones, the ones that are willing to go the extra mile in creating the detail, and the world that I want to fall into. And I got lucky and found Diego.
Yeah, because his work, I mean, I'm like just looking at the pages now, like there's so much detail with like the rain and the water and the boats and the
Yeah.
musculature on the people. Like it just feels so lived in with the art that he
That's
creates
the
and it
idea.
feels so
And the
real.
style has to complement the story. So our
Yeah.
story takes place in the late 17, I think it's 1797. So I sent Diego Franklin Booth, a lot of those pen and ink artists from the
Yeah.
early 20th century and late 19th century stuff, and got him in the mood.
You got him in the mood. But so you're like you're so the like what your role in this is like producer slash director, you said, right? And so you're part of the editing process. So what has that editing process been like then to see this come together again into what you've always wanted it to be?
Well, if you've done your job, the editing process should be fairly simple, because you've worked out the script, you've gone through the layouts with Diego. So like he's in the middle of laying out the last issue right now. And that's where the work gets done. Because he'll send me rough sketches of every page, of every scene, right? And you have to tackle the comic scene by scene. You're like, okay, what happens in this scene? What's the important information that we need to
Yeah.
get across? And how do we get that across in a visually striking way that's going to pack as much meat on the bone as we can in this limited medium, which is like you've
Yeah.
got like a page or 3 pages to do an entire scene. So you've got, you're always working with less. How do I do this simpler? How do I condense this, but still get the punch and the emotional, get everything I want to say into the scene in as simple a way as possible and visually striking a way as possible. And that's where the work gets done. By the time I'm editing the final, so I've sent it, Diego has sent it to the colorist has sent it to the letterer. They send that to me, and it's the sort of like the last set of eyeballs on it before it goes to print. So any little changes I want to make, anything that I feel I can come across, I'll rewrite a line or I'll cut stuff and or I'll move the balloons around, so let's give a little space between these two characters. All of that is, what I call editing. I'm not sure what a real comic book editor does, but that's what I do.
That sounds awesome though. I mean, because again, a lot of people know you for acting, so it's really awesome to hear all of the work and like what's going on with this. That's amazing. And to have this come together like this, finally, it also must feel really fulfilling for you to finally have this out into the world or almost out into
It's
the
it,
world.
it's really great, I of course was worried about Diego. I thought, is this going to be a repeat of what I and
Yeah.
when your heart's been broken, you're a little bit tentative going in. But Diego has proven to be a terrific partner and really open to notes, understands the drama and the characters. And it's what you want out of it.
Yeah.
Out of an artist. Your artist is your cinematographer in
Yeah.
the thing. So.
Yeah. So I'm curious, it's a limited series, 6 issues, correct? It's being told,
Yeah,
the whole
yeah, it's
thing
a
is
whole
told in six
story,
issues.
it's a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Oh,
And if and the if we can think of a way to continue it, we could do another mini series maybe. But right now, this is the story that we want to tell. At its heart, it's a love story. I think all great stories are love stories at their heart, and that's what this is. It's a
yeah.
gothic romance, which, come on, I mean, I love that stuff.
Who doesn't though? I mean, like, even if you say you don't, you can't. A gothic romance is always incredible and like just juicy to look
Gothic
at.
romance, yeah. And I haven't seen
Yeah.
stuff like that combined with the werewolf. There was that one with Benicio del Toro that came
Uh,
out 2010.
yeah, that was the Wolfman remake with him and
The
Anthony
Wolfman remake.
Hopkins,
Yeah,
I
they
think.
went for that gothic. It looked fantastic.
It did
Um,
though. It looked gorgeous.
and
Acting.
that's what we want. And boy, did I love Nosferatu. Man, did I love that
The
movie.
new one.
Yeah, oh my God.
It's I was so I it's one of those things where I was like, is it going to be as good? It was. It was incredible. I mean, he knows how to make
It's
a beautiful
genius.
image with his
That's a
CGI.
masterpiece right there. That's a
I
modern
know.
masterpiece. You could tell right away. You're like, oh, that nobody's going to discover this film in 10 years. Like this film
No.
there.
Yeah. Well,
Which is great because it also has elements of that gothic romance.
yeah.
So I
I do
think it's
love
a
that
good
stuff.
time for the Lycan because people's
Oh
appetites
yeah.
are a little bit whetted by Nosferatu, and I think you could do a similar thing with the Lycan. Um,
Oh
so
yeah.
so that would be fun.
Do, so I know that you weren't like the originator of the idea, but you worked on it. What do you love about the werewolf? Like, why did you want to be part of a werewolf story specifically? Is there something about them that like attracts you as a
Uh,
monster?
the werewolf is, it's the beast within us all. They're pretty simple archetypes, that's why they're
Yeah.
called archetypes. And all the archetypes are cool.
Yeah.
They all say something about, who we are, and they all give us unique opportunities to explore different darker corners of the
Yeah.
human soul. I
Hmm.
love the Gothic. Um, I've always been a fan of that Gothic romance stuff, and
Yeah.
always been a fan of the werewolf. The Howling. It made a huge
Oh,
impact on me because I was
so-
the perfect age for that movie. I think I was 13. Uh,
oh yeah. Okay.
well, 12 or 13 when The Howling came out, and saw it in the movie theater was just knocked out. Of course, all I remember from it is the werewolf transformation. But boy, did you get your money's worth,
Right?
They could have been reading the phone book for the rest of the film. Then when you got to that werewolf transformation, you're like, as a kid, it was just like jaw on the floor in the dark, movie theater. You're like, oh, oh, oh. So that had a big impact on me
Oh
and
yeah.
pretty much everybody else from my generation.
Yeah, I would say.
American Werewolf in London, of course, is
Of
just like
course.
such a great twist on the thing with the humor. And then, a series of disappointing werewolf movies.
The
Yeah,
werewolf's been done so dirty. I feel like we really need more good werewolf stuff in the world, which is why I was excited for the Lycan because I was like, we just need
yeah,
more good
there's
werewolf
this
stories.
there's a similar problem with Bigfoot. in film.
Okay, let's talk about this because I feel the exact same way. I love Bigfoot. I used to work on a show about Bigfoot. I've gone Bigfooting. I
Oh,
like
okay.
I'm a freak
Yeah.
about
So which
cryptids.
one
But
do you like better? Do you like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or Yeti?
uh
What
Bigfoot or Sasquatch? I like
it,
Bigfoot. I just use Bigfoot.
yeah, I like Sasquatch. It just
It's a
sounds more
good.
like an Indian legend, you know.
Yeah. But
So
they
I'm
can't make a good one. It's always so silly. And it's hard to make a good Bigfoot movie. I feel like it always ends up being too silly and not
mm,
scary, or they don't like, I don't know.
yeah,
And
the it's not about Sasquatch himself because, you know, if you shoot him in the dark, and you can get some, you know, it's just like Jaws, like the less you see of the
yeah,
monster, the better, like Alien, right?
yeah.
So it's not that. It's the refusal for filmmakers to take the subject seriously, you know? And if somebody
Yes.
took Sasquatch seriously, I think you could make a great film. I mean, look, the template is really simple. It's Jaws in the woods. If you were to do Jaws in the woods with the same kind of thing, you know, there's a national park and everybody wants to go there. Maybe something's happening in the national park that attracts a whole bunch of people. And there's the guy, the park ranger. Then there's the politician who sort of runs the national, you know, he's like the governor of the state or something, and he wants to open it up. And the guy's like, "You got to shut this shit down because there's a family of fucking Sasquatches out there." You know, it makes its own sauce.
So
But
now
just
I want to write that. So
nobody's done it, you know. Nobody's done it.
have you seen Willow Creek, the Bobcat Goldthwait movie?
Uh, mm, Bobcat is in Willow Creek. What?
Bobcat Goldthwait made a found footage movie, a Bigfoot found footage movie called Willow Creek, and it's one of
Bobcat
the
the comedian?
yes. Isn't that crazy? But it's actually one of the best Bigfoot movies I've ever seen. It's really
Oh
good.
shit.
I'm not
Okay.
like it's shock. It's really good because it does what you're talking about. Like doesn't show you a monster until the end type situation.
Yeah,
But they
yeah, yeah.
go to like a real town that is based around Bigfoot for their like their tourism and that kind of
All
thing. So like
right.
they interview real people about
Interesting.
Bigfoot.
I
It's
gotta check
good.
out Willow Creek. You liked it, huh?
I liked it a lot. That and Exists, the Eduardo Sanchez one, are like the two Bigfoot
Yeah.
movies
Yeah,
that are
yeah.
like
Exists.
decent.
Yeah. It falls apart. You know,
But like a lot
totally
of
falls apart.
all the other Bigfoot movies are just so silly. And I
Yeah,
I agree
I'll have
with
to check
you.
out
Take
this Willow Creek. Is it found footage?
yeah.
I hate found footage. I hate the cheapness of taking a camera and wiggling it around and giving you this seasick idea that you're somehow watching a real thing. It's so tired, but also it's like anti-film, you know? When you create a film, you've got this language, this cinematic
Yeah.
language at your disposal with the lenses and the sizes and the camera moves and angles, and that creates this language that you're able to communicate emotion with just using the tools. You know, you could be filming some rocks that you painted some eyes on, but if you're using the tools in a way, you can communicate so much. And found footage does the opposite of that and puts me
Hmm.
to sleep within 5 minutes.
Oh, interesting. Okay. See, I'm opposite. I have a Blair Witch Project tattoo and I'm a massive found footage fan. But I still think I
Why?
was why do I love
Yeah,
found
what do you love
footage?
about it?
So I think it's the reason why you don't like it. I think I love how it goes against the grain of what you think
Yeah.
of with cinematic language and makes something completely different. And obviously there are tons of bad ones. Like I will not like contest that whatsoever. Like I think it's a really cheap way to make movies, which means a lot of people do it and they don't do it well. But I think if you can really lean into like if you take again, if you take found footage seriously and actually know like where the genre comes from and the
Mm,
movies that have come before you, you can
yeah.
find really cool ways to craft scares but you
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah.
smart about it. And I think what you're pointing out is accurate. You have to take the medium seriously. It's not just because you want to make a cheap movie. You should just respect what the medium is
Right.
allowing you, what rules to break.
Yeah, getting the conceit of why you're filming all these people at this particular time is important. Like
Yeah.
being able to buy that somebody's actually, taking the time to film for days and days. What's a good example of one of your favorite found footage films?
So I really love this one called Lake Mungo. Have you ever heard of Lake Mungo? And that one's interesting because it's framed like a true crime documentary. So it's not
Right,
just like in the woods. So it's a little
right,
different.
right.
But that one's one of my favorites. I really love As Above, So Below, which is like in the catacombs of Paris. They go to
Oh,
find,
right, 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 right. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And there's a couple like other really small ones that I'm a huge found footage
All
freak.
right.
But
Yeah,
hey, I
no,
get it. It's not for everyone,
it
but
has
like
its fans.
there are
It
good
has its
ones out
fans, and
there.
there's good examples. Look, uh, my first big movie was Deep Blue Sea. And I flew my parents out to the premiere, and we're from Maryland. And that same weekend, this movie came out of nowhere, which didn't have any money. We spent $100 million on this shark movie, and this movie was made for like 15 grand. And they shot this film in my backyard, literally, like in the woods of Maryland, where I used to play with my friends, is where they shot the Blair Witch Project.
Crazy.
And
That
it
is so
came out
nuts.
of nowhere with an online campaign because the online thing had just become a
Yeah.
thing. And it caught the studios completely off guard, where this new technology was able to put this $15,000 movie in theaters, and it beat Deep Blue Sea. It was the number one film on that opening weekend. Number two was Deep Blue Sea. So yeah,
Oh, so that's why you don't like found
I got a
footage. No, I'm
problem with
just
it.
kidding.
Found footage. No, no, no. I
I'm
went and
just
saw the
kidding.
movie. I'm like, well, shit, man. I guess this movie's fantastic because everybody's freaking out about how real it is and the scares and all that. I walked out after 30, halfway through it. I was like, what the hell? In fact, somebody stood up in the theater. Somebody stood up because I saw it in Los Angeles. So obviously there's a lot of filmmakers in the audience. Somebody stood up in the middle of it and goes, "This is bullshit." From some guy from the UK just stood up in the middle of the thing like, "Fuck this bullshit," and he walked out. And then I walked out about 5 minutes later.
That's
Uh,
incredible.
yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
th-
I
thank
uh, I gotta go. We gotta wrap
yeah, I
this
was gonna
up.
say thanks so much for your time. I'm gonna wrap up and yeah, so this has been amazing.